long years and multiple rounds of electroshock therapy. That's when everything really started. It was a frightening, at times mournful and demoralizing place. Gray walls, gray faces, the omnipresent sound of doors being locked. I remember looking around me, wondering why nobody seemed to be getting well. Even the brightest, most impressive patients struggled, often in tears, to describe their pain. The less advantaged simply lapsed into a zombie-like silence. I felt suffocated by all the things that weren't being said, especially by me. Then one day, it dawned on me. It wasn't the patient's fault. They simply didn't have a vocabulary for their illness. Why should they? Mania, suicide, psychosis, such things were hardly the stuff of polite conversation. None of us knew how to express ourselves because mental illness was a long, inarticulate howl. It needed a voice. It needed words. And so, to save myself, I started to write. I wrote down everything I knew about bipolar disorder. The symptoms, the treatments, the various theories of origin. I read everything I could lay my hands on, even attended grand rounds lectures with the doctors. Then I threw away all the clinical stuff and wrote what it felt like inside my own body, how the illness skewed my view of the world. 7 years later, I emerged with a book called Manic. Never in a million years could I have expected how favorable the response to Manic would be. It catapulted to the New York Times bestseller list within a month. It was optioned by HBO for a TV series and translated into 8 foreign languages. I was deluged by messages from people all over the world, asking me for advice, inviting me to speak, begging me for comfort, and always telling me their own stories. During those proverbial 15 minutes, I was the poster child for bipolar disorder. For the very first time in my life, I was no longer hiding. I was out in a very big way. But my story doesn't end there. I didn't stop being bipolar just because I'd tasted some success. For sanity's sake, I've had to make some sweeping changes. I've stopped practicing law to write full-time and act as a mental health advocate in order to satisfy my need to do something worthwhile and lessen the stress that had kindled my illness into full flame. But the biggest change by far has been my willingness to accept that I have a condition that isn't yet curable and that may require a lifetime of treatment. I don't always see this as a liability. I recognize the tremendous impact bipolar disorder has had on my life, for richer or poorer, and there is a surprising amount of richer in that equation. Without it, I doubt I would possess those qualities I truly like in myself, like creativity, empathy, and an outsider's eye. It gives me great joy to say this. After all these years, all this suffering, this incandescent struggle, I've finally reached a point not only of acknowledgement, but of ownership. This is what happened to me. This is my truth. My story is bigger than bipolar disorder, though. I've come to realize that I belong to a much vaster community, the mentally ill. Regardless of the particular diagnosis, we are all dealing with divergent experience, a life beyond the norm. Stigma encompasses all of us, as do pressing issues with relationships, coping strategies, etc. That's why I've aimed this book at the broader target of madness, a word I know may be controversial, but that I frankly adore. It assumes a spark of genius, a familiarity with things not quite of this commonplace world. I recognize, from the countless heartfelt stories and questions I've been privy to over the years, just how complicated and frightening mental illness can be for everyone concerned. We all need explanations, illustrations, analysis, instructions on how to build a better life in the face of exceptional challenge. Hence, this owner's manual. And I hope it can provide some of that for those who are seeking solace. This includes not only individuals with mental health issues, but also the people who love and sometimes want to strangle them, the healthcare professionals trying to help, and the millions of other people whose lives are affected by mental illness in one form or another and don't